I have a one-woman show called From Southern Belle to Mrs. Cartel. I erroneously married, when I was very young, a member of the Cali Cartel and didn't know it.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so that was a thing.
How did you get out of that?
As you do. If you've heard that story once, you've heard it 1,000 times. The girl that meets a member of the Cali Cartel doesn't know it and marries him.
Welcome to Persister with Candace Lowry. I am Candace Lowry. What is a persister? A persister is a little play on words of nevertheless she persisted, but also a woman who has truly broken through that glass ceiling and has really forged a path and a name for herself in whatever business she's in. Persister with Candace Lowry is a CastBox original produced alongside Studio 71. CastBox is the fastest growing, highest rated podcast app on both iOS and Android, where you can find all of your favorite podcasts. You can listen to Persister with Candace Lowry wherever you get your podcasts, but I hope you'll give CastBox a shot because I think it's the best. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Persister with Candace Lowry. I am Candace Lowry, and I am so excited to not only have Donna Thomas here, but have her little dog, Dorothy. And she's going to be joining us as well. But I feel like there are so many things I want to touch on with you, from being like this badass businesswoman in entertainment to kind of fulfilling this need to have to give back, but also touch the Me Too movement as well. So
happy to.
Yeah. So right now you're the SVP of sales at Vubiquity.
Correct.
Right? And you came from Technicolor.
Right.
Right.
Yes. I came from Technicolor before that. But I've been in the media and entertainment industry since college. So just this last probably 10 years have been on kind of the post-production side and the finishing side, but in content since the very beginning. So Vubiquity is, you might have never heard of Vubiquity, but we're a distribution company that now does post-production and finishing, and I deal with all the studios. So they brought me in to develop relationships with the studios and bring business into the company.
Yeah, because I saw it kind of works with rights and where it can stream, uploading, things like that, which I feel like is becoming a bigger and bigger business now.
Yeah.
Because of all the streaming companies.
Correct. So if you look at like kind of the life of a title, if you will, it goes into pre-production and production, and then there's the finishing work, and then that goes to its first place, whether it be theatrical or first run on FX or whatever it may be. But then that's an asset that the company or the content owner then sells to. Could be a number of distributors globally. So we do all of that. We do the film finishing. We take the title and we distribute it to over 1,400 people globally. And it's all digital media, supply chain. It's not sexy.
Yeah, but it's important.
But it's important.
So, like, for example, if, let's just say, like, Toy Story wants to get on Netflix or Hulu, how do they decide which streaming platform to go on to?
Well, I think if you have content and you're wanting to monetize it, then you're going to want that content to be every place possible, right? So bigger content providers do their own content deals. So it's not unusual. I've got a big content provider right now that I'm working on launches with Netflix, Amazon, iTunes, YouTube TV, and a number of other people, and they're launching 2,000 titles, kind of their library, all at one time, because they want that content to be on every single platform. There's a cost associated with that, and pretty steep one sometimes, just for preparing the content and getting it up on the platform, because it's not like preparing it once. It's like this whole complex system we've created for ourselves.
Right.
And it's hard to monetize your content. Now, if you're a small content provider, you have like an independent film or something like that, you would probably need somebody like a Vubiquity that licenses content for the content provider and then makes it available on different platforms. So, we offer services to, the big giant studios and then little people trying to figure out how to get their work seen,
Well, I always get excited when I hear about these great films that were at, like, the Venice Film Festival or things like that, and I can't find them in theaters. But then when they finally get on Netflix or something, I'm so excited because I can finally see them.
It's true. It's tough out there. Distribution is the name of the game. You know, whether you're trying to get your sell a show to a network that then has availability to, you know, hundreds of millions of people, or you're an independent content creator that's trying to get your stuff seen. You know, you put it up on Vimeo, you know, some people might watch it. You do the festival circuit. I also make films. So we've got a horror film that's in the festival circuit right now. So you do the festival circuit, and then what does that mean? Yeah. You know, what do you do with that?
Wait for people to buy it.
Yeah.
Right? Acquire it.
Right.
So I'm interested because this almost feels like a job that has gotten bigger as time's gone on. And so when you went to school in Georgia, right? So what did you initially want to do that brought you out to LA?
Okay. So, honestly, I did not have kind of aspirations necessarily of being in the entertainment industry, even though I was in pageants.
Oh my God, a Southern pageant girl.
Yes.
Oh, I grew up in Texas, and my mom grew up in Texas, was a Southern pageant girl too.
Yes, and I have also, I don't know if you saw my bio, I have a one-woman show called From Southern Belle to Mrs. Cartel. I erroneously married, when I was very young, a member of the Cali Cartel and didn't know it.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so that was a thing.
How did you get out of that?
As you do. You know, if you've heard that story once, you've heard it 1,000 times. The girl that meets a member of the Cali Cartel doesn't know it and marries him. So actually, what had happened was I was married to him, and not because he was a Cali Cartel member, but because of another reason, his violence and other things. It was not a fun time. I had left him, and one of the things, I was still in college, and one of the things that he had done while we were married is he sent me to school to learn WordPerfect and Lotus 1-2-3. Right. So I'm like, you know, I'm an independent woman, you know, so I'm going to get a temp job. So serious true story. I got a temp job at Discovery Channel.
Oh, whoa.
And it was a satellite office in Atlanta, and I was working 20 hours a week and, you know, doing Lotus 1-2-3. and I was just getting my bearings back and, like, you know, getting excited about life again. And, you know, 3 weeks into that job, they came to me and said, we're closing the office. And I remember, you know, you have these times in your life where, you know, they're defining moments, kind of like a sliding doors thing. It's going to go one way or the other. Yeah. And that voice inside of us knows. Maybe we don't know what to do with it, but we know. And, you know, as awful as, those are stories for another day, but as awful as that situation was, this was, to me, was like, this is devastating. And I just knew I was in my home and couch in the dark. And I was like, if I don't get a job there, I'm never going to be able to change the trajectory of my life. I just knew. So I put my suit on with my shoulder pads and, you know, my mall bangs, and I went in the next day. And my boss at the time, her name's Kim Martin. She was also a pageant girl from Milledgeville, Georgia.
At Discovery Channel.
Yep. She's a little bit older than me. And I said, so not confidently, will you move me too? And she laughed and she said, you don't work here. You're a temp. And I took that opportunity to make this impassioned plea. I don't exactly remember the exact words I said, but I was like, please believe in me and take a chance on me. I swear to you, you will never regret it. And it wasn't until years later, after I wrote the show, that I asked her why. But she did. And she got me a job. I didn't even have a job. I was a temp. Got me a job as an administrative assistant. And they paid to move me to D.C., which I can't imagine. What a lottery win for me. But I also asked, and I fought for what I wanted. And I got up there, and within 6 years, I was senior vice president of affiliate sales and marketing. So
that's insane.
I often say to Kim, she's the only person that really met Mark, the Columbia drug lord, in my adult life. The drug lord. And I said, I often say to her when I see her, thank you, you know, for saving my life, and thank you for changing my life. And she always says, I didn't save your life, you did. But it's two things for success. It's one, finding an environment that values what you bring to the table, right? If I if Discovery at that time valued Wharton MBAs, and we only hire Wharton MBAs or whatever, people from Harvard, whatever it may be, then that would not have been a place where I could have thrived because that wasn't my situation. But at that time in the industry, the Discovery in particular was a place that you could try new things, you could learn and grow, and you could just kind of move and not create your own destiny. You had to, work hard and do the right things. But it's finding a company or a person that believes in you and the value that you bring, and then just working harder than everybody else. And it's not that hard to work harder than everybody else.
It really isn't. I've noticed that.
It isn't.
And the amount that people complain about
Never
things.
say it's not my job.
Yeah.
Never say it's not my job. The trajectory of going from an administrative assistant to senior vice president in that short of a period of time was phenomenal, and it was a great experience. And I left because one of my mentors, who had been the COO of Charter Communications, was starting a streaming company in Atlanta, and she had investors. And I'm from Georgia, so I wanted to go back home. And when I left to go there, I remember being on the phone with clients at times. I think of the world as phone, 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 phone. Like, what is this thing you're doing? I'd be like, I can't hear you, because I didn't know what streaming media was.
Yeah.
And then 9/11 happened, and the investors shut the door like they did on many companies. And Discovery's owned by a company, Liberty Media, out of it's a big media company, and they asked me to come out to California to work for Ascent Media, who was years later sold to Deluxe. So I came out to work for Ascent Media in just kind of business strategy and development. And, a couple years into that, there was an issue with a studio and that needed someone to handle it that knew how to handle a customer experience. And my boss at the time, Jose, he was the CEO of Ascent. He passed away very young with cancer. He was a wonderful human. He's just like, I don't care if you don't know this, but you know how to take care of a customer. So that's how I was assigned and got into kind of the digital media space as it relates to post-production. And I didn't know what an encode was. I didn't know what a transcode was. Yeah. I thought a fig was a fruit, but it's French, Italian, German, Spanish. I knew nothing. But every day when I talked to Paramount every morning, and we still do it because the gentleman at Paramount is my producing partner now for our independent movies. And every day I would call him and I would say, "Good morning, Mike. It's a brand new day and no PO, no delivery." And every day, we just rebuilt that relationship. Yeah. And I learned a lot of technical information, and I'm not a technical person, but I learned about workflows, and I learned, kind of this new space, and I'm lucky that I did so, because if you're not growing and you're not learning something new, you're not evolving. And I will tell you, I'm a confident person, but I felt stupid for about 2 years in every meeting. My best friend, she works with me now, Carrie, we were talking about it yesterday. We were over at Lionsgate yesterday, and we were coming home, and we were thinking about a meeting we were in about 6 years ago with DreamWorks. And it was an area of the business, like color grading and stuff. We didn't know much about it at the time. And he used so many acronyms in that meeting. We're like, yes.
Just fake it.
Sure. Yes, thank you. No idea what he said.
Yeah.
The whole meeting. But you could easily say, shame on this company for not teaching me, or like, hey, I can't do my job, because I don't know all these things. But no, it's your life is in your hands. It's entirely up to you to go for what you want to do and learn what you need to learn to do your job.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point of being like wanting to be challenged. And I remember when I was working at BuzzFeed, it was this shock that I was leaving, and I kind of got to a point where I felt comfortable and complacent, and I wanted something new to do that was challenging, and people didn't really understand that. And I think that sometimes people are afraid to move because that means it's something new, and it might be a risk, but it sounds like that it's so worth it because you're learning so much more.
Yeah. And I've really loved working in the entertainment industry. Like I said, I didn't have aspirations of doing so, but being a pageant person, and then also drama in high school. Yeah. it was something that I always wanted to do, and I tried my hand at stand-up in New York a while back, even though I didn't live in New York. I was in New York all the time for business. And then I just got so busy with life, I didn't really, pursue it again until I moved to L.A. proper, because I lived in San Diego for about 8 years, and worked in L.A. and commuted. But then I felt like I wasn't fearless anymore. Like I had gotten complacent. And I'm like, I went to circus school. I'm terrible.
What?
Yeah.
I love how we've learned so far. Circus school, ex-cartel.
Yeah, circus school, I'm terrible. The lira is not for me. It's for tiny
Humans.
little people. I can't climb a rope. Not like clown school, but actual do the acrobatic stuff.
Oh, that stuff is hard.
Yeah, I learned. And I had bruises on the back of my legs, and somebody from work said, "Who did that to you?" I'm like, "Alira."
Me.
I did it. But then I took an improv class, and thinking, this will be, something fun to do just to get myself back out there. And then it ended up being something that I was passionate about. I'm an advocate that every business person should take an improv class, because it teaches you the tenets of teamwork and saying yes, and thinking outside the box. And if your teammate steps out and does something ridiculous, instead of being like, "Look at that idiot," it's like, "Oh, let me make what you did look brilliant." Yeah, instead of like, "Look at dum-dum."
So when the one thing that I've noticed in the brief time I've been in entertainment is that at some companies I get to, they are so open and welcoming to all races, genders, everything. But at a certain point, I notice it kind of stops, and it just becomes like all men. And I think that it has definitely opened my eyes recently, and a lot of other women I work with sometimes feel that way. And we want to break. I mean, there is truly that glass ceiling. And so I'm wondering, since you're up there and you've made it, how, what advice you'd give to a young woman who is kind of discouraged by seeing that at her company?
I'm discouraged because diversity is something that's been talked about for a long time. And I remember maybe 10 years ago, so not that long ago, diversity was talked about as a subject, and I was part of this women's leadership group. And one of the executives at a big media company was like, of course we have diversity. I mean, look at our marketing department and our customer service department. No, that's not what we're talking about. Right. We're talking about, representation. It dawned on me recently, I was invited to a meeting that, for some reason, I was invited to it, and I really shouldn't have been there. I think it was an accident. But I went in, and it was mainly men. It was a money meeting. So mainly men in their white men in their 60s, and the things that they were talking about, like high level corporate issues. I'm like, oh, this is why representation matters, because what we think about, like our problems on a daily basis, even if they're very important problems to the corporation, it's nothing compared to the conversations that are happening at that level in corporate America, or that level in politics, or that level at academia. It kind of doesn't matter.
Right.
And I honestly think, from my perspective, that I thought, there's a time when you can get to a point in your career where you can walk into a room and a man in particular, because that's what we're talking about, will realize, oh, she's a senior vice president. She has to have value. Even if I didn't know her before, now, she has good thoughts and good opinions and things to bring to the table. I should listen to her. And in many ways, it's still like, oh, we let you in the room. We didn't mean for you to talk, And I have a good career. But those are still the things that, people who don't mean to, that, tell you that the men are talking. Or really recently in a meeting, another female exec was like, it was really cold in that meeting. And a man exec said, oh, are you menopausal? Which is like,
oh my God.
I mean, or when you don't get something done and you have to complain about it as a woman, like, hey, John, I mean, I know you're busy, but I mean, would you mind if you have a minute, versus like, John, that was supposed to deliver yesterday. Why isn't it that way? Had an issue recently, kind of similar to that. For 9 weeks, nothing happened. And finally I sent a stern email, and I'm told that my histrionics are unappreciated. Like, would you talk to a man that way? You know, and this is something that I love, right? So you're never going to, I don't think we're ever going to eradicate it.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, you can complain, or you can raise, you know, holy hell, which depending on your mood that day or your level of being exhausted having to deal with it. Or you figure out how to change the system from the inside and do the best you can. I think a part of diversity and part of getting to where you are is people in those rooms don't understand that they are what bringing another voice and perspective would mean. Because you do hire people who are like you. And so unless you make a concerted effort to hire, you know, diverse voices, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But for people who are discouraged by it, and, you know, like I go home and I, you know, eat a pint of ice cream or, you know, somebody told me recently, as if they were Jesus giving me a parable. They said, Donna, listen, I once had a female friend at work that was having trouble with a male colleague. And I told her, listen, I get it that history probably brought you here, but if your button were smaller, he'd be less likely to push it. So you should probably shrink your button. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
This is so bad.
I can let you read the text. And to be like you said, to be I am a badass, but then also I'm a sweet Southern lady. Yeah, so like I get back to my office and I read this to my two office mates. One's a guy, and I'm like, is this offensive? And they were like, yes. And this is a good guy that's in it. I think he was trying to help. And so we made shirts that said "Shrink your button." But
oh god, well. This is fascinating, interesting, helpful. And so
maybe I'm telling people that the world is horrible and, you know, that there's no hope.
No.
There's always hope.
I want to take a quick break really fast and then get back into it and talk about more of your experiences and how you're kind of breaking through that as well. So we'll be right back. Fall's in full swing at ModCloth. If you're not already curled up in a sweater, like me, they've got you covered with cozy essentials and cute knits that won't quit. ModCloth has tons of stylish outerwear that is sure to make an impression. Feeling festive? Be sure to check out their holiday gift guide featuring unique finds and perfect prezzies for everyone on your list, yourself included. Prep for those upcoming holiday parties with ModCloth's Party Boutique. Discover everything from sheer lace to luxe velvet to irresistible sparkle. It's sure to be a night to remember and an outfit you will never forget. ModCloth believes fashion should celebrate all women. That's why they offer a full range of sizes from extra, extra small to 4X. Got questions about fit? Their team of mod stylists can hook you up with complimentary sizing and styling to help. I personally love ModCloth because the material and everything that you get just feels good and it feels very well made. But I also love the fact that they have year-round rompers and jumpsuits because that's who I am and that's what I wear constantly. So that's my thing, but they also have very unique clothes and very unique patterns, so they're always conversation starters. So I will definitely be getting some velvet jumpsuits from the site, especially for Christmas, and I might get some sweaters because I just love dressing like I'm basically in pajamas every day. To get 15% off your purchase of $100 or more, go to modcloth.com and enter code PERSISTER at checkout. Once again, that's modcloth.com/PERSISTER at checkout. This offer is valid for one-time use only and expires February 2nd, 2019. Okay, I want to talk about LinkedIn here. So the right hire can make a huge impact on your business, and that's why it's so important to find the right person. But where do you even find that individual? You could try posting on job boards, but can you really be sure the right person sees your job? Instead, find the person who will help you grow your business with LinkedIn. And I have gotten all of my jobs off of LinkedIn, and it has been incredibly important for my career growth. And as the world's largest professional network, people go to LinkedIn every day to grow professionally and discover job opportunities. And 70% of the U.S. workforce is already there. LinkedIn Jobs matches people to your role based on more of who they really are. So their skills, interests, and even how open they are to new opportunities. Which is great because sometimes when I'm looking, I'll just mark myself as open. This way, your job gets seen by more of the right people. Most LinkedIn members haven't recently visited the top job boards, but 9 out of 10 members are open to new opportunities. So you can only reach them on LinkedIn. That's why a new hire is made every 10 seconds using LinkedIn. And businesses rate LinkedIn 40% higher than job boards at delivering quality candidates. So hurry up to linkedin.com/persister and get $50 off your first job post. That's linkedin.com/persister, PERSISTER, to get $50 off your first job post. linkedin.com/persister. Terms and conditions apply. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Persister. I have Donna Thomas with me, and I feel like I am learning a lot right now about I don't know. I run into this, even though I don't want to fall into the stereotype, I still have a problem being confrontational. And like you said, like, I don't want to say not taking no for an answer, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Is not necessarily seeing a missed opportunity as just that, you know? And it feels like having that representation is so important, and it's just so frustrating because it's like, why is it so hard to get there? You know what I mean?
Yep. Well, I think, just regular rules apply on you going for your dreams and doing the best you can and waking up every day and working your plan. Make your plan, work your plan. You can't control other people. Pick companies that, like I said, it's so important. Value what you bring to the table. And confrontation's an interesting thing, especially when you're trying to rise. As a woman, anytime you speak directly to somebody, or there's a lot of sensitivity around, there you go, being all aggressive again, and a man can say the same thing. So you do have to change your strategy. And I think a lot of people today might think, I just want to be me. Like, I shouldn't have to change who I am. Yeah. Well, you do. I mean, because you're just, if you think of it as a strategy to get to where I want to go, and this person's in between me, why are you going to give that person all the power because you just want to, no, it's a game. It is. And it's confrontation to me, like I have it, yesterday got the best of me, but I generally view confrontation as not confrontation, as something of like just an issue I have to get resolved. And when I think of it that way, and then I can push past it and move through it. And oftentimes, I think the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is, like, at some point you're like, well, if I don't care, if you don't care, and I've brought this to your attention a million times, why should I? And then maybe have a day or a week where you're like, screw it. Yeah. But then one day you got to get up and suit up, and you got to go back, and you got to get what you want. And, try a million ways to do it. Like, if you're a woman, like, hey, would you mind? Here's some cake. I'm going to take you out and beat the shit out of you. Like, you can try all of the approaches, but never stop trying to advance yourself to where you want to be in life. Because I tell people that when they interview for jobs, even if you think you don't want the job, you're like, get the job. Get the offer. Let it be your decision not to take it. Don't lose an opportunity, before it's even offered to you. Like, keep pushing and getting as many opportunities given to you as possible. If you decide not to take them, that's fine. And don't consider oftentimes conflict. Consider it as like, this is just one more, it's like an escape room, just one more door that I got to figure out how to get the key to, and I win. I win today. I might not win tomorrow, but I'll win the day. It's exhausting.
Yeah, and I recently got a job offer, and I was talking to my dad about it, and it just like showed the difference between me and him, because both my parents grew up in sales and executive, and and I felt bad that I had to leave the job. And he's like, you literally need to think about yourself and think about your path and what you're doing and stop caring so much about what people think. And like, every time now I have to make a decision, I'm like, what would my dad do?
Yeah.
Because he's such a straight shooter, and I think emotionally, and sometimes you do have to kind of pull that back and not use it as much, even though it is helpful in some ways. But yeah, and I think, talking about confrontation, I wanted to discuss the post that you wrote for a Huffington Post.
Yeah.
Where you talked about Me Too, but it was interesting because your abuser came forward and apologized.
Correct.
Which is not very common to see.
No.
And I think it talks a lot about redemption, but also about, you were talking about how people remember things.
Yep.
And how it can take time.
Yeah, it's interesting because this is something that happened. I call it the thing before the thing because it happened. I left that scenario that's written about in Huffington Post straight into the safety of the Colombian Drug Lord. So for me, like that period of my life when that happened, what happened with Danny, he's a Marine. Mm-hmm. I was very young and he got a job at a shoe store. I was an adult, Kenny shoe store, and I fell in love with this Marine, and I decided I needed to run away from home and move to California and be with him. And my mother was too old to understand what love was, and was trying to squash my life. Mm-hmm. And so I went, married him, didn't tell my family, and was happy for a little while. I even went to San Diego State University and didn't remember it. He told me just recently. Like, that's how my memories were kind of failing me. Mm. But he beat me very badly, and I literally left. I called my mother. She came out. I think I'm the original ghoster. I don't know. But I left, and we never spoke again. Mm. And so as a good Southern mom would do, this is an incident that did not happen, and we will not discuss it ever again, because it was shameful for me to have done that. And so I just moved on with my life. And I think I say in the article, over the years, as I'd pull a credit report, then that name would appear. And so I remembered it. Mm-hmm. But my mother passed away this summer, and I found an article. I found her journal. I didn't know she kept a journal. She typed it, and then she printed it out and put it in a folder. And so I found the folder, and there's an entry that said Donna ran away from home. She followed a Marine, California. He beat her. I came to get her up. That's it. And I was like, oh, yeah, that happened. And I told my friend about it, my best friend, Carrie, like a couple weeks later. It was really hard for me to say the words, and I married him. Mm-hmm. It's a deep, deep shame. Not that I got married, but I guess because I made such a bad mistake. And then 2 weeks later, I'm sitting at my living room table with some friends of mine, and one of those weird Facebook messages popped up from the non-friend, and it was him. And he's like, hi, Donna, how are you doing? And my friend said, you just saw a ghost? And I'm like, I did. And it took me a minute, and then I had to tell them, and I told them what was going on. And I just said, I'm fine. How are you? And then he came back with immediately out of the gate with a big apology. And it was so interesting how my friends, a couple of friends, two of my guy friends, we were at Warner Brothers, and when we were leaving, they're like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, oh, no. And I was explaining what had just happened, and both of them were like, fuck that guy. And I'm like, why? Because I thought how nice that was that he reached out, right? And he said, because he's trying to get something for himself. He has something he needs to solve for himself, which is so interesting about, like, perceptions of people. Yeah. For me, I felt like, oh, wow.
Who cares?
This is nice that, like, somebody even made an effort to acknowledge what had happened. Mm-hmm. And so we were messaging, and we didn't talk, and because I wouldn't talk at first. We were messaging, and we kind of, like, we're talking about memories. And there are many things that I didn't remember going to San Diego State. Like, he didn't remember hitting me with a helmet. I couldn't tell you where we lived. I know the city that we lived in. I almost couldn't tell you the year it happened. So when this was going on with Christina Blasey Ford, and people were like, oh, if you don't know where it happened, it didn't happen. So it was very triggering. But I woke up the next day, and I thought, I wonder if he'd be willing to write about this, because this is pretty darn special. Because for me, I didn't understand. I thought he never thought about it a day again in his life. They just beat me, and I left, and the world went on. Yeah. And I didn't understand that his life could have been affected, in whatever ways it was affected. And that was fascinating to me. So my premise was, can a guy in this instance do a bad thing and become a good person? We'll never know. And if he's listening, we'll never know. Is he a good man? I choose to believe yes. That's kind of not the point of forgiveness because I don't have to live his life. He felt bad enough to reach out. And when I see things like, 60 women signed a piece of paper that said Kavanaugh was a good guy, I'm like, and also there's a show on Discovery ID channel called American Monster, where there's always a 55-year-old, woman or man watching a brand new video of their dad giving him a piggyback ride, and he was the best dad in the world, but he killed 13 people.
Yeah.
Those two things can live in the world together. And I got to say, I said, he didn't know I was a writer. So, I'm like, will you write this article with me? And to his credit, he did. And it's been really, the first time we ever talked on the phone, I probably cried for half the call, and my emotional state was not very, very good. And my brother was furious. He came out. I have a benefit show at Comedy Central once a year, and he came out, and I told him we were writing this article, and my brother got really angry. And I was like, why are you, he's a preacher, he's a great guy. I'm like, why are you so angry? Preachers are supposed to forgive. But apparently that night, again, I didn't remember, I got to a phone like while it was happening, and just, you remembered phone numbers back then.
Yeah.
I must have dialed my brother in the middle of the night in Atlanta, and he heard the second half of the beating. So for my brother, the beating was still very visceral. Like, I don't remember the words, and I don't remember the tone. I just remember being in the hospital with that tube down my nose to get the blood out of my stomach. Like, that I remember. But what wound that I had that I didn't really understand that I had, now I do, is when he apologized and we started talking about, like, why we even got together in the first place and what our life was like. And that hole is covered now with the reality of the memories, good and bad, not just shame and fear and distrust. Something interesting that came from the article, I think I was telling you that I didn't get trolled that much on the article because there was a man saying that he did it. And why we don't believe women is fascinating to me, because there's just no benefit to coming forward with something years later. I had put in the article, and we went a different path towards the end. I said, I could have gone my whole life without telling anybody about Danny. But if I turned on the TV one day and saw him being confirmed as a Supreme Court justice, I would have. I would have. Yeah. And that would have been my motivation.
Yeah, and that's what upset me so much about the whole Kavanaugh Dr. Ford thing, because it's like, if you just admit it, like you said, it doesn't automatically make you a horrible person for the rest of your life. No. You can change, and that's what got so frustrating, where they're like, well, he doesn't remember, so it didn't happen. And it's like, that's not really fair.
No.
know?
And that's exactly right. If he, it's, for me, it's when he was on Fox News and said, I was in Bible class. I wasn't, it's like, come on, we all know you're a frat guy, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And we all know you were drunk for 3 out of 4 years of college, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You could just say, I was drunk the whole time. I'm mortified that I could have done this to a woman. I don't remember it, but God help me if I did it. I'm so sorry.
And he came, and it's like, I remember when, because I grew up loving Louis C.K., and when all this stuff came out, I was just so upset. But there was also another part where he admitted it and said, I am a horrible person for doing this. And that part of that, I'm like, I respect you for doing that, and at least, like, not denying something that actually happened and owning it.
And just reaching out, like the fact that Danny reached out, I was very suspect at first because the timing was so weird. I'm like, how did you, because he apparently been looking for me, and he never had Netflix, and he got Netflix one Sunday, and he was watching a football documentary that had a football player from Warner Robins, Georgia, which is where I'm from. And he's like, oh, Warner Robins. So he typed in Donna Thomas, Warner Robins, and then I came up, and he immediately reached out. And it's really, it's fascinating to me that having these conversations with him, I do feel like I remember, for me, what's hard, I got really attacked on Facebook over some of this stuff before the article went out, which really shocked me. And I'm like, do you really want to go here? This is not political. This is not a partisan issue. This is not a Republican Democratic issue. I've been loved by two men. Two men have loved me in my life. One almost beat me to death, and the other one killed my kid. So these wounds are deep, but because I didn't talk about them for 30 years does not mean they did not happen.
Yeah.
I don't know why we are so resistant to believing women, but we care about property more than we care about women. Like somebody stole my car, I believe you.
Yeah.
Somebody stole my computer, I believe you.
Yeah, and
somebody
even
raped me. Oh, did they?
Yeah. Like, how many drinks did he have? And even with Bill Cosby and stuff, people still think he's innocent.
Still think he's innocent.
Oh my God. Like, he was literally proven guilty. Yeah. Like,
he was drugging and raping women for years.
And it's hard. And I think that, like, I know that it affects people the way they see men as a whole sometimes, and that can be a little hard. But, I mean, when you see other girls like coming forward with stories like this and they get, trolled by all these guys, like, what is your advice to them to kind of move past it?
I think that I've thought a lot about that. When you're speaking your truth, as you speak your truth, the person isn't hearing your truth, they're hearing their truth. If that makes sense. Like, it's a filter that's going in, and there's like literally, whether it's your aunt or some idiot online that is behind a name that is an idiot name, or a coworker. You can't control it, but that doesn't mean it's not going to affect you. I would say feel it and move on, because you can't let somebody who doesn't have any impact in your life control like how you live your life and how you move forward and how you heal, because that's really what's important. And it's easier said than done. I mean, like, you read a comment and you're like, really? And then you obsess over it like crazy. But at the same time, I think, my philosophy is, as you go through life, things come up that it's what integrity is to me. Things come up and you're like, that doesn't feel right for me. That doesn't feel right for me to cross that line. And then you make a stand, or you tell your story, or you tell your truth. And if you can tolerate the backlash or the consequence that comes from it, then you're standing in your own integrity. And if that's okay with you, then you did the right thing. And if it feels too much, then you can back off of it. But some of the people that we've known that have come out against people that are famous, I mean, they take some really serious hits and death threats and things like that. And is there healing from coming forward? I mean, Christine Blasey Ford's a perfect example. How does she feel today?
Yeah.
What we taught young women just this month or last month in this country, we taught them, do not speak up. That's what we just taught American women. Do not speak up. But we should speak up if it feels right to you. If not, then get help privately, or talk to somebody privately, and you don't have to make it public. A lot of people have been sharing their personal stories. I wasn't expecting this, of abuse after the article came out, and which is great. I'm not necessarily equipped to handle it.
Right.
Yeah. But being there for somebody who reaches out to tell their truth, if individual people, we can say, support that person. Yeah. Don't question that person, especially if you're a man and you're listening.
Yeah.
Do not think that you have something to offer this woman as an answer, because you don't. Just listen.
Yeah. And I think that a big theme of everything we've been talking about, like even in business and even in dealing with personal issues, is that as a woman, it is okay to speak out, and speaking up is something that you can do, and that it's okay in every situation. And so I think that's definitely something I've learned, even just talking to you for 30 minutes we've been talking. And I think it's very helpful to see that, it's okay for someone to come forward, and that there can be healing from that, even if it's with other women who come to you, you know? And
I hope the article, because they had asked us at some point to, one of the edits, like, for him, what do you think coming forward? Do you think this will help change opinions or change the world in any way? And his answer was like, I just wanted to apologize to Donna. Like, I don't think anything I have to say will change anybody's opinion on. There's so much broken, But I don't agree with that. I think that the story should tell you a couple of things. It should tell you if you feel the need, you feel bad about something you've done in life, don't hesitate to reach out. Conversely, don't have expectations of what that reach out is going to mean because they could just absorb it and you'd never answer you, or, be angry and be like, get away from it. That's not the point. The point is you doing what feels right for you, and that's him standing in his truth. I need to find her. I need to apologize. Half of the world thinks that that's bullshit. And it kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's bullshit. And it's the person who beat me. So truly, that's what healing is.
Yeah.
To me.
I feel like, oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, everything you've been saying, it's just been so powerful. And I'm really thankful that you were here today and you could come on not only to talk about this, but to talk about business and to talk about just being a woman and being strong. And before we go, I just want to see, where can people find you if they want to connect or?
I am at Best of Donna cross-platform.
Okay, perfect.
Best of Donna. Yeah, and then we didn't get to the foundation, but I will say I have a foundation, and we give out scholarships to women at UCB. We give out about $8,000 a year in scholarship money. But the importance to that is, I started the scholarship way back, when I was at Discovery Channel, and I only did it, I wanted to give back. So I would like to encourage people that you don't have to have money. You don't have to, I don't have I'm some idiot from South Georgia. I have no, I'm nobody special. So as long as you, take a look at what you can do in the world, whether it's volunteering or for me, it was like, can I change maybe one person's life? Is that okay? Is life changing to get a comedy scholarship? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I would always be looking for a way that if you want to give back to the world, and for me, it's like women don't necessarily treat women well in the business world. And this was my way of thinking, maybe at some point I can create a group that women, if they're helped, that they can reach back and help another. There's enough room at the top for everyone. But no matter how you and your financial situation or your time situation is, you can always find a way that works for you to do what you believe in and to give back in a way that is meaningful to you. So I would encourage anybody to, from a volunteer standpoint, whether it be money or whether it be time, make that a part of who you are and make that a part of your mission in life to succeed, because it will give back to you in so many ways that you didn't know, and you will be a much more, I sound like I'm preaching, but a much more well-rounded person.
Perfect. Thank you
so
much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, guys. Please let me know how you feel in the comments. This is wonderful. And I guess we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.